Hey everyone, welcome to Just Start, the podcast where we cut through the noise and get straight to actionable strategies for building in Web3 from the Broom platform. Today, we're tackling a crucial question: how do aspiring entrepreneurs, artists, and creators break into Web3 and truly make an impact, especially when starting lean? If you're dreaming of launching on the Boom platform or elsewhere, our goal is to give you the practical steps to move from idea to action. Just start. Melanie Carstens is a Bitcoin native creator, writer, and host working at the intersection of media, culture, and Web3. She hosts Bitcoin and Beyond, a weekly interview series spotlighting founders and builders across Bitcoin Layer 2, DeFi, NFTs, and open digital systems. Melanie is also a panelist on the Let's Go morning show by Deorganized Media, a contributing writer for The Edit, author of the weekly newsletter, and a partner curator at Gamma. Active in the Stacks ecosystem since 2021, she's focused on telling the real stories behind decentralized innovation. Ellen is here to share her hard-won insights on building a brand, navigating challenges, fostering community, and the real-world tactics you can use to launch your Web3 venture. So let's dive in. Melanie, a huge welcome to Just Start. So before you became deeply embedded in the Bitcoin creative economy, could you tell us a bit about your journey and what you were focused on?
Yeah, thank you very much for having me. Very excited to be sitting here and chatting to you today. So yeah, my history is in music and fine art. I kicked off my career in advertising. So I have been in advertising and marketing for a very long time. And I then got into music sort of management and building of artist brands, and I was involved with that for many years, and then also into fine art sort of to the last couple of years of my career. And I think why I have developed such a passion for it was because of my relationship with creators. I mean, for 20 years, I worked with creators. And so I was very aware of how difficult it is for people to go into a creative career. It is something that comes so naturally to people, but people aren't told that because they are taught to focus on something that they're going to make money from. So part of the reason, or I think probably 95% of the reason why I got involved or my interest was piqued in crypto was because of NFTs. And I think the solutions that they provide for creators. So that's my story. Does that answer a question?
Yeah. Here's where I want to pull on a thread what you just shared there. Could you just walk through your just start moment when you were starting with limited financial resources? What were your key non-financial investments and strategies for building your brand and podcasts like Bitcoin and Beyond from the ground up? What did you do?
Right. So I was drawn to the permanence, the ownership, the sovereignty of Bitcoin for artists. So for me, it was very clear that I would need to, first of all, just learn, do some reading, do some research, find out what these blockchains, what is it and why are you choosing blockchain? So I was ready at that point to say, you know what, I'm not going to jump into this kind of guns blazing because I know about music and about art, but this is very important moment in history because it's a time where we have to wipe the slate clean and we have to start introducing better models for artists, for musicians, for creators. Step number 2 is to get to know the communities within the blockchains. So if you feel the same ethos as what Bitcoin means, understand what Bitcoin means and understand what Stacks means, because together those are 2 absolutely iconic moments for artists. Get to know the ecosystem. You want to go in slowly as much as it feels like a big bang moment. And people often say that it seems like an overnight success. And an overnight success doesn't ever really happen. Those things take a long time. There's a lot of things that go on behind the scenes. So it's not a rush job. It's a job where you're going in, you're committing to this, you're committing to helping build it right now as well. Because we're talking about something that is not even being built. So you have opportunities here to engage with founders. You have opportunities here to share what your challenges are as an artist. I think there are founders that are looking for that information. So that's where it becomes so important to get to know a community, to find within that community the kind of platforms, what are the wallets, what are the creative platforms, and to start engaging with the communities within those platforms, because you're going to be able to then bring your ideas and your thoughts forward to help them actually build this future, because that's really what we're doing right now together.
Yeah. So when somebody comes to you right now, Mel, somebody from the music industry, let's say, or for the advertising industry who has no knowledge, but they know that Bitcoin is the place to be or Stacks is the place to be, what do you do or what do you advise them to validate their creative ideas or business concept early on, um, to avoid mistakes perhaps you have made or the pitfalls to avoid so they can actually save some heartbreak, so to speak?
Yeah. The markets are very small still. This is still a new technology. And it's important to understand that it doesn't matter what your success is, number one, in real life. This is a clean slate. This is a new beginning. The old and the young are vying, the males and the females. It doesn't matter who you are. You are all vying at this point for a clean slate. So you can't expect to enter an ecosystem and drop a collection and expect it to sell out. So what my advice would be if I was a new artist and I was entering an ecosystem, the first thing I would do is create or make my Twitter account, because oftentimes in art as well, you kind of using TikTok, YouTube, Instagram. Twitter sometimes isn't a very big thing in the creator community. So I would make sure that I had a personal Twitter account, and I would use that account to get to know founders, get to know platforms, join spaces, be seen as a person that is interested and willing to get involved. Because at that point, you're going to see brands that might need help, and you can then offer your services. So I know with myself, I'll give myself as an example because it might be easier. But when I entered the Stacks ecosystem, for maybe a few months, I just hung around. I didn't sort of barge in and try and befriend everybody very quickly. I kind of just hung around for a while. I got to know the ecosystem, and then I started going into Discords, speaking to people, meeting people, and then I just started creating content. If I saw that there was an artist releasing something on Gamma, I would just do a thread about them. If I saw Gamma released a new protocol or whatever it was, if they released something new, I would just do a write-up about it. So I looked at my skills instead of, and I think that's, in the traditional job market, you kind of look for a job, you create a CV, and then it's a very different experience. Here, you kind of almost go out and do some work, and then people see who you are and then become interested in you. So for me, it was that. It was going out, it was just creating content. And I did that for 2 years, and at that point, and I think this is where what Zero Authority is building, where your reputation becomes the most important thing in Web3 that you can have or you can offer. So you want to build a reputation, an on-chain reputation, so that people know who you are as a person in as much as they know who you are as an artist. So I think you kind of want to you want to invest time, you want to garner trust, you want to a community around you and engage with the community. You kind of want to put quality before quantity. So you want to make yourself noticed. That's kind of what I think about that.
What you shared, and so far having done 2 interviews with Jack and also Stephen, one thing there is a common thread, which is value first and try to bridge worlds. That helps, number one, establish your authority, to create a sense of trust within the community, so to speak, where people know that you're here for the long run and you're here to add value first. And through that, your reputation builds. People start getting more curious about what you have to offer, and then opportunities come alike. I was listening to something yesterday where the guy says that he's trying to teach his kid. He wants to be a really good football player. He said, "You know how to be a good football player? You help others become good football players." And he was
Yes.
like, "How does that work?" He said, "Think about it. You're helping other people improve their game. And in the process, you're practicing your skills. And when the opportunity comes, people will champion your journey rather than seeing you as an obstacle or as a competitor. And I was like, wow, that's so true in life in general. And I was like, perfect analogy, which brings me to my next question here. A core principle we advocate in Bitcoin is adding value before asking anything. And you clearly have shared here in terms of how you did it for first 2 years. Can you share in terms of how somebody from Web 2 or the traditional world come into Web wanting to release the artwork or music? They can't do it for 2 years, for say, just because number one, cost, opportunities. How do they bring in value? For example, if I want to launch a music, I can't sing for Adams, but let's say I want to launch a music. I can't do it for free. At the same time, I want to break into the scene. What would you, having managed artists and an art gallery in real life, what would your tangible advice be for these individuals?
I think my first piece of advice would be don't expect it to be easy because it isn't. And I think artists know that better than anybody else because it's difficult enough as it is in real life. My advice, the same advice, and that is get to know people in the ecosystem. You're going to find that, for example, you might not want to release your hit song, but musicians know how to create music. And it's easy enough to go to one of the platforms in the ecosystem, like 300 has done, and say, you know what, I'm going to make you a theme track for your Twitter spaces. You hang out on Twitter spaces, people will see you there in the audience. Because it's a small industry still, it is easy to get noticed. For me, it took 2 years because I only had my reputation to offer. I couldn't go out there and launch a music collection or my role is always been to support people who want to do that. So that took a lot longer because proving your reputation is harder. There's no picture or song that can prove a reputation. So I think it would be, once again, engaging, like Nieta does as well. Nieta will work with people. She'll create pieces of art. People will get to know her. And then when she releases her artwork on Gamma, they know who she is. They've interacted with her. That they know that she's given some, so they're going to give some. It's a different way of working. For me, I would bring my music, I would bring my art, but before I put it out there, I would definitely first spend, even if it's just 2 months, 3 months, getting to know who the people are. You could do live spaces, for example, if you're a musician, and you could play music. You could, we can stream to Twitter. So you want to follow a couple of really important people in the ecosystem. You want to let them know that you're doing this live show. You might even say to them, hey, guys at Boom, I want to release some music on Stacks. Can I come and do some live music on one of your Twitter spaces? So you really need to think of creative ways. And you kind of want to think of it like you're sitting around a campfire. You are sitting with the people and you are a group of people. There's nobody standing up and talking to everybody. It's people sharing stories around this, can be intimate. That's how I kind of think is important for artists to realize as well. And it's difficult with social media because you kind of find people just, they talk out to people rather than inviting them in. So that's kind of what you want to do. You want to invite people into your world, and you want to give back to people who join you in your world and who do and engage with you.
That's really helpful. Oh, before I continue, just for our audience who doesn't know who Nieta was, if you could
Sorry.
just share in terms of who you're speaking about in terms of context here, so people have an appreciation of that name.
Yeah. Nieta is very involved with Stacks Australia. She is a key member of the Stacks community. She's a Gamma partner artist. She has released NFTs on Gamma. She has released Bitcoin ordinals. And she is a prime example of an artist who gives so much to a community that she feels like, she's part of the audience. She's engaging with as much as she's presenting. And another one is Reese Swanepoel. He's an incredible artist in the Stacks ecosystem he did exactly that. He spent his time getting to know the community. He joined Twitter spaces. He wasn't afraid to get up on stage, put his hand up, introduce himself, share something about himself. it is vital to get onto Twitter Spaces. And Nieta and I started Art on Stacks a couple of years ago. And that is another thing. You can start your own space. You can create a live music space. You can create an art share space. This is the beautiful thing about this industry. And with Nieta and I, that's what we did with Art on Stacks. And it was a wonderful way to bring the art community together. So yeah, I think within the ecosystem, those two artists, Nieta and Reese, have really done an incredible job of doing that. There's also nothing wrong with kind of minting a collection. Say, for example, another thing you could do was, host a Twitter space, let everybody who you've met know that you're going to send them a free NFT of your track. That's how you especially start making your small initial audience, creating those tunes and sending them over to people, or little artworks, because once somebody owns something of yours, your relationship with him gets a little bit more intimate. And that's really important as well. It's different to the old days where you had these big record labels and, artists that are going to be releasing this massive album with this massive budget, and they're going to sell 10 million copies. And if they don't, they're an epic failure. It's not like that in Web3. That to me is one of the most profound differences between what we're doing. If you kind of look at what artists are making on Spotify, millions of streams is not enough money to live off. Millions of streams. Now, you only need to sell 0.25%. You sell 200 NFTs and you've made a year's worth of what you would make on Spotify. So it opens up opportunities for smaller communities to really get to know and engage with artists in a different way than they do in Web2.
This is what I love about Web3 or Bitcoin space or even stack space. You want to have longevity, you really have to put the grind in. You came from the left field, nobody saw you coming. It looks like that, but you actually put 2 years of work you have put into the community. At some point, it came across like you're not being treated fairly in terms of the amount of hours you have put into without any rewards. And you were not seeking any financial reward, just recognition. Even that was a struggle. But then there was a barrier that I believe you hit and you just broke through the barrier. And today, I don't think anybody doesn't know Melanie Carstens. I genuinely mean that. And then your experience.
That's why I said to you, sorry to interrupt you, but that's why I said to you, anybody who says that it's an overnight success, they don't see the grind. And there's nobody who can expect, the problem in a bull run is that you see all these, NFTs flying everywhere, and it just seems like, oh my God, I can make a quick buck in this situation. But that's not what you want. Musicians and artists need a better way. I still haven't made any money in Web3, but I don't believe I could have gotten a better education if I'd paid $100,000 for a course, for the best course there is. Not that there would be one. The people I've met and the things I've learned are worth so much more than money. That's what you've also got to ask yourself. Do you want to make a quick buck that you're going to get quickly and spend quickly? Or do you want to say, all right, I'm going to make this increment so that it's something I can live off, and that's building up a core audience of supporters and people. Understanding your brand. I mean, you really have to, and that's the wonderful thing with AI, is it can really help you understand your brand. I think when you're launching your career, like I said just now, it doesn't matter what you've done in real life. You can't just put a few tweets out that into crypto Twitter and expect everybody to go, okay, wow, someone famous is entering our midst. You still have to do that grind. Everybody is equal in this world. Where artists need to the prep work is the most important thing. And with AI, you have the opportunity to really devise a well-plotted entry and longevity in Web. So you want to really start at the beginning. Who are you? Put that into AI. Who are you as an artist? What does your sound like? Who do you sound like? And then, even more importantly, where are you going? Where do you intend to go? And, you don't have to think about where are you going to be in 20 years' time. It's really just what do you want to do with that now, but have some sort of long-term vision so that you can plot your north. And if you feed a lot about yourself into AI and then ask it questions back, what more can I give you? What do you need from me? And really have this engaging conversation with AI to make sure that you have an incredible bio, an incredible story, and your path is plotted. And AI can also teach you about ecosystems. It's a wonderful tool for artists to use, specifically because marketing is not something that traditionally an artist would do. They like to create, they want to make music, they want to paint. They don't want to also now be a content creator. Those are different career paths. And this is another sort of huge hurdle for creators coming into the ecosystem is they've created this beautiful piece of music. Now they have to go out there and create content around it so that it will be successful. They need to use AI to do that, to really bring them to an easy pathway towards creating content, because that's as well so important. The reputation you put out there, what you look like visually, how you sound like on Twitter, the way you speak to your audience. These
So
are
on
important things.
so on that front, right now, let's just say pulling on that thread literally of AI, if somebody has let's say I've created a 30-second EDM music, and I say like, I love this music, I want to share it out. For somebody, perhaps you can share in terms of, number one, when you say AI, are you meaning something like an LLM model? If yes, what LLM models you have found to be most useful for creator use? And if it's a newbie like myself, what's the prompt? What actionable step can I take right now and type in LLM in terms of find my voice, my strategy? It's one thing to just make a statement like that, but what do I do?
Yeah.
Do you have any suggestions?
That is a tough question to unpack. Because it is so new and it is a craft, learning to speak to an AI so that it responds to the best, in the best way for you. I use a paid version of ChatGPT. What I do and what I advise people to do, the first thing you do is you write a very simple sentence. I am a musician, or I'm an artist. I would like to release a piece of music in Web3. What do you need from me to help me be successful? That would be the first prompt you would ever put into an AI model, ChatGPT. That is going to give you a whole long list of questions. You then copy and paste those questions onto a Word document so that you don't press enter halfway through and confuse it. And you just type as much information under each of those questions that you can possibly give it. Then you put that back into ChatGPT and you say, here are my answers. Have I covered everything? Is there anything more you need from me now that you have read this? You give it back to ChatGPT. ChatGPT will come back to you with, thank you for this, this, and this. Can you clarify on this, this, and this? At that point, and only at that point, do you really do you kind of fine tune? So if you think of it like a triangle, a reverse triangle, you kind of want to start like that and pinpoint and bring it down to where you're reading that. So you will have fed information answering its questions. So you keep asking it, what do you need from me? What do you need from me? Until it says it's got everything it needs. Then you say, all right, please, can you give me everything I need? And you've got to make sure that it gives you like a press release, a bio, anything that is going to make the foundations. And you can Google what those are, or you can ask ChatGPT. I'm a musician. I'm entering Web3. What are the items that I need to be successful? So it's really, you want to play question and answer with ChatGPT. It's not just one sentence. Hey, I'm a musician. I want to release an EDM track onto Bitcoin, make me a social media strategy, because that's not going to work. So you really want to start filling its memory so that it gets to know you as a musician. And then at that point, it can guide you in the most remarkable ways. Like I said, it can make your full length bio. You can say, make me a bio for Twitter, make me a bio for YouTube, make me a bio for all your things. And you make sure it's clean all the way along. They all say the same thing. They all have the same image. If your name is Hello, I Love Bitcoin, then it must be Hello, I Love Bitcoin on Twitter, Hello, I Love Bitcoin on YouTube, so that your brand starts looking like a proper brand. Just things thrown all over the floor does not a nice wardrobe make. So you want to make sure that all your info is into ChatGPT. It gives you all the things that you need. And that's when you start. Don't start until you have a complete package. At that point, you can ask it to create a social media strategy for you. You can ask it to write articles weekly for your Substack. So that's when you really start using it as an assistant, as if you've hired an assistant, without feeling guilty that you're using it.
That's actually very actionable intel today for anybody looking to break into Web3. I mean, we've covered quite a range of topics here. We've covered in terms of proof of work. You got to put in your time before extracting any rewards or value back from the community. We've covered in terms of how they can create proof of work. We've covered in terms of your experience, in terms of managing your artwork, how you have helped others break into the space. We've covered also now into AI, coming from somebody who has used it yourself, guiding somebody who just wants to break through while building their reputation. How to even set their reputation up using AI is tremendous value. Now, if I were to ask you, looking ahead, what excites you the most about the Bitcoin creative economy and the broader decentralized space for creators? That's one. Then, of course, if somebody wants to connect with you and follow Bitcoin and beyond, where do they search for you and how to get in touch with you?
Well, let's start off with what excites me about Web3 and the future of Bitcoin and Web3. I think there are very few times in history where we have a complete lights on and lights off moment. And I think that's what we're having here. I think we are not only reinventing the substrate, what do we put our artwork on? Art, the beginning of time, cave art, was etched into walls and it's still visible today. It has been the most powerful substrate that we have ever known. Everything else can disintegrate, can be damaged. I think Bitcoin is the closest we've ever got to this substrate that can last in perpetuity. And that excites me. It excites me that an artist is able to own his own work, to profit off his own work, to create a career off his own work in a way where he doesn't have to sift through mind-boggling contracts, where the details are simple, easy to deal with, and you retain ownership of your work. You can engage with your community. You want to keep the community. It's nice to have small and intimate communities around you. So even though this is something that I think will expand infinitely, at the same time, I do believe that you can still have these intimate communities within this larger or broader picture. That's what decentralization really is. It's about groups of people sitting around campfires, sharing their stories, feeling like the artists and the community are all together in this journey. And I think specifically that feels like it now to me, because it is something that's still being built out. So I think we've got a very interesting and a very exciting road ahead of us. I think we are at a time in history where we will look back and we will see a fundamental shift in how we work as creatives.
How do anybody find you? Because I can tell you for a fact there'll be individuals who will be either messaging me or sending DMs on YouTube when we post this out. So please drop your handle.
Yeah, I am on X. I am Melbell_BTC. So MELBELLE_BTC. I am also on YouTube, Melanie Carstens, and then I write Bitcoin Weekly. So I'm around. I'm in the Stacks ecosystem. I'm on X. And yeah, I have a show. I'm also very involved with Deorganized Media. So you can also, if you see Deorganized Media around, you'll find me there as well. I do the Let's Go morning show panel every morning. And then my show, Bitcoin and Beyond, it's every Thursday at 12 p.m. ET on X and on YouTube. And that goes through the Deorganized Media platforms as well.
Mel, that was an absolute masterclass in starting and scaling in Web3 with passion and pragmatism. I loved what you shared there, to be honest. So thank you for sharing such invaluable and actionable steps. Now, to our listeners, I hope you're feeling energized and equipped. Head over to Boom platform when you're ready to build. Until next time, don't just dream it. Just start. Take your first step. You'll fumble and it's all right. That's how you learn. But just start. As always, I'll see you in the next episode. Thank you very much.
Thank
Mel,
you.
thanks.